Hey, Trailblazers, this is Jason, your host of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. Before we jump into our latest episode, I've got some incredible news for you. Are you gearing up for your next big hike or backpacking trip? Well, we at Trailblazing Texas podcast have partnered up with Trekker Joe's, the ultimate Texas outfitter, to bring you something I feel absolutely special. Listeners, you of the Trailblazing Texas podcast can now get a one-time 15% off their gear purchases at Trekker Joe's. That's right. Whether you're a first-time customer at Trekker Joe's or a repeat customer like me, you can save big and hit the trails well prepared. So upon checkout, use code TTP15 to claim your 15% discount and in the process support an amazing local Texas business. So happy trails, and don't forget to tell your hiking buddies. Now on with the episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode. Yeah, then that was a discussion that we had on the front porch. And then I'm thinking about that. And then I looked at you and go, you know what? I'm just done.
Yeah. And once it was voiced out loud, I wasn't.
You did not fight me on that.
I wasn't going to fight you on it at all. You know what? I think that's a great idea, Jason.
Yep.
But it was an awesome trip. But when it boils down to it, I think we made the right call. It would have been miserable doing that in the heat, having to ration water, and just getting borderline dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. And like for me, I've hiked in a lot hotter temperatures, but there's something about being in the Guads that sun, it's just different. And I'm not even talking about like elevation, no elevation. I'm just being out there, not a cloud in the sky, shade, no shade. There's just something that hits different. And absolutely, my concerns were safety, knowing the park and knowing what we were about to get into. And even like the El Capitan Trail, there's no shade.
No.
Like, it's...
And that would have been another day that we would have had to watch our water the whole way. And then we would have had to overnight be aware of how much we're using for dinner, how much you're drinking at night. Because the next day we're going to have to walk out 8 miles to the highway with no shade.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you definitely don't want to be at our age where you're holding back on water you should be drinking because of the environment that you're in. So yeah, I definitely think we made the right call. And I still get a giggle that when I said, look, I'm done, like you didn't call me a name. You didn't say, come on, it was, yep, let's go. And then it was horribly sucky hiking back to the trailhead to our cars.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, not only the heat, but facing that quote unquote failure. Well, we've already hiked 60 miles, it's you have to get in that mentality of it's not a failure. It's a successful 60-mile trip. Did we finish what we set out to do? No, but we did 60 miles more than the guy sitting at home on the couch.
Yep.
We had a good time. Found a couple of places that I didn't know existed to camp. You had your first lookout tower experience. You had your first trip in the Guadalupe backcountry that's not within the national park. Yep. You had your first cattle take experience.
My first orgasmic cattle tank experience, that cold water on my head.
Yep.
And you bet me $1 to get in it. If you were serious, then that would have been my first jump in the cattle tank. No, I used to always get like, oh man, like, trying to do this or do that in the quads. And, there would be some failures or something. And I used to get down about it. And my good friend John goes, man, how fun would it be if you were always successful?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
If there's never a chance to fail, then I mean, why go do it?
Well, I've told you before that I'm a firm believer in setting goals that appear to be out of your reach. Um, this one, just due to the circumstances, was a little bit out of our reach. So when the weather cooperates with us, we'll just have to go try it again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so to the listeners, we made it to, what is it, 2.5 days? We made around 60 miles. I think it was a little over 10,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it was the unseasonable heat that really facilitated us to call it. Like, it was in the high 80s, no shade, no
Yep.
clouds.
The
And
week
it
before was
was,
cold. The week after was cold. We timed it wrong.
yep, yep. But that's the beauty of the quads, right? Like, you never know what she's going to throw at you.
And she always calls you back.
Yep. Oh, heck yeah. You'll be back in about 2 weeks, right?
Yep. Yep.
No. All right. Just some questions that I find interesting. So, what stood out to you the most of this backpacking trip? The views, the landmarks, any cool nature moments.
I would say my favorite part was also what I would say was the hardest part was Slaughter Canyon. That climb up out of Slaughter Canyon was pretty grueling, but the topography, that wash that comes down where it almost looks like a bathtub at the bottom of it was really neat. And it was the first time I had gone all the way up Slaughter Canyon, so I was really impressed with that. And then once you get up to the top, you can see how vast that canyon is.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I hated it in the moment, but that type 2 in me is like, man, that was really pretty cool.
I think for me, what stood out the most is experiencing the backcountry, seeing, like there's like that. There was supposed to be an old Civil War graveyard down this one trail, seeing all the possibilities in that area that I've never even knew existed. The fire tower, the
Mm-hmm.
cabins, the caves, I mean, that just blew my mind that all the future opportunities to kind of see some of this stuff and plan different outings and to tackle different things, like it just opened up a whole new realm and universe to me, and so that was really exciting. Yeah, I think walking through North McKittrick, I've seen a little bit of it coming from Texas to New Mexico with my youngest and Sam, but like to experiencing that in the dark, no, you just look over with your lamp and it's a cliff and it's just right next to you. That was kind of cool. Yeah, and also just hanging out with you and you know dying together, complaining, bitching together was a lot of fun.
Partners in suffering.
Yes. So if you look at it in the 2.5 days that we were on trail, what do you think was the biggest obstacle that we faced?
The heat. It would have to be the heat. Um, I mean, we both had plenty of water. We both had sun protection in the form of hoodies or a hat or something like that. But even then, that shade that shade became such a valuable resource. Let me just get up here to this next tree where I can get in that shade for just a few minutes. The heat was the biggest detriment.
You know, I would agree with you on that 100%. And also, what I started thinking about is the lack of shade facilitated, I think, too many breaks, right? So like you you would always take advantage any little shade spot that you would get. Not you as in you, but us. So like normally if it was a cool day, like let's say in the 30s and we're doing it, we're probably not stopping and taking breaks. But due to the heat and due that there was no shade, every little shade spot, we're trying to like fit in there and make use of it. And I know for me, it facilitated me stopping, well, because I needed to, but stopping probably more than what I normally would. And then, yeah, then it was just every little shade spot I was wanting to stop.
Well, and it's one of those. I've stopped. I'm in the shade. Well, what's it going to hurt if I stay here just a couple minutes longer? What's it going to hurt if I stay? And that the cumulative effect of that is we were walking at night.
Yep. Yeah. And how many times do we say, okay, just 2 more minutes, just 2 more minutes, just 2 more minutes? So it, so I would say that outside of El Capitan Trail, we've done pretty much everything. Well, like you haven't done El Cap, I have, but like all the trails in the park we've touched on, we've experienced. If you look at, and you've done the north part, I haven't. So if you looked at kind of what we got accomplished, what would you say was the most physically demanding?
Oh, the most physically demanding, other than just the pressing on for 21 miles. That's going to make anybody tired. Um, that climb up out of Slaughter Canyon was tough, and FU Mountain. I'll leave it to the listener to figure out what that FU stands for. But even when Cameron and I did our through hike, I told you in Cameron's video, he's at the top of it. And yeah, if you look down there, you can still see Todd coming up, shaking his head because it's so steep and it's so loose. And I mean, that road is open to vehicular traffic. I would pay money to see somebody take a Jeep up that thing. That was hard. That was hard. Going down,
And it was at the end of our day.
yeah, going down Agua Dulce was tough, but I know that in the daytime it's not as tough because you can see where you're going. But FU Mountain, man, just there's just no getting around it. That son of a gun is steep.
I would say, like, for me, the most physically demanding, it would have to be coming out of Slaughter Canyon, gaining that elevation. But because we were still fresh, it didn't feel horrible. It was tough. But that FU Mountain, it's at the end of your day. It's nighttime. Without a headlamp, you can't really see. And that's the moment it was dark, but you could kind of see. And we were just now turning on our headlamps. It was at the end of our day, or towards the end of our day. I think we still had maybe 3 or 4 miles to go. And you look at it from the bottom, and it doesn't look like you've done way harder and higher stuff. It doesn't look like you're like, okay, this isn't going to be bad. And I remember, like, you telling me, oh, this is going to be tough, blah blah blah. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I was thinking it would be a lot worse. Well, it's okay, but once you get halfway up, it's horrible. It
Yeah.
is absolutely horrible. Like the rock is sliding and it's steep as all get out.
I think the combination of those two, it's so steep and the rock is so loose. Yeah, you may have taken a 3 foot long stride, but you're going to slide back a foot just because it's so dadgum loose. And then add to that the 18 or 20-inch steps in it where you're having to step up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember going up that, getting halfway, and I'm like, oh, this isn't bad. And then I look up and I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding? And that was the only section of the whole hike that we did where I had to stop about every 5 or 6 steps just because I was wiped out.
Yep. It's a tough one.
Yeah, when I got to the top, man, I sat down immediately, and I was thinking, Todd, please take your time. Please take your time. Take your time. Yeah, and that just kind of led into, I think we still had like 3 or 4 miles, and that's when I was really getting frustrated that we're not here yet. We're not here yet. We haven't done a mile yet.
Yeah.
Oh God, are you kidding me? And then after FU Mountain, we still had some ups and downs that were not
nearly as bad though. Not
nearly as bad, but nothing that you would be like, oh, no big deal. Like you would see them and go, oh my God, like another one.
The cool part of that was the sun was down, so it had cooled off. The wind was blowing like crazy. But off to your left, if you'll remember how everything was lit up with all the oil fields.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you look to your right, there was absolutely nothing. I mean,
yep.
One side of you was like looking on LA or Dallas, just millions and millions of lights. And then the other side, there might be one little light down there somewhere in the distance. Totally different. So cool.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about someone wanting to do this hike and like just logistically, like what do you think are some of the challenges that they would face? And also like in planning this, you better get it all right.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like, and I don't know, and I thought about this. I don't know that you can just look at a map and do some research and know that, yes, I'll be able to drive on this Forest Service road or this 2-track and cache water here, there. I mean, I think from a map perspective, you can say, well, maybe I'm going to hike here. I need to cache here, hike there. But if you do not, and also correct me if I'm wrong, if you do not have the knowledge that you have of Carlsbad, of Lincoln, I don't know that you're going to get it right.
Well, you definitely have to know the area. You can't depend on the cattle tanks. Even if you know they're there, there's no guarantee they're going to have water in them. But more than anything, I think you have to be a strong hiker. You have to know, yes, I can make this many miles no matter how hard it is. Can you imagine not being able to do that? First day we did 13 miles. There was nowhere else to stop. If you can only do 8, there's nowhere for you to camp. You get yourself in a bad situation quick, fast, and in a hurry. The longer you're out there, the more water you're going to need. There's no water that can be depended on. I would say Agua Dulce you probably can, but I wouldn't. I mean, it's iffy. It's iffy.
Well, and I think, Joe, you, everybody that I've talked to that has hiked out there, you guys have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. And you better know that you can hike when you're in discomfort.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Discomfort is going to be your friend.
Yeah. Like, we hiked in some at some times that was very discomforting, and then we got to a safe spot. We pushed through it. Just said, yeah, we need to try this when the weather's a little bit different. Also, like, you definitely need to be a very experienced hiker to tackle this. I think it's just logistically, where am I going to park my car? How am I going to get to the trailhead? Am I going to carry the 7-8 days worth of food, or am I going to like that you definitely need a couple of partners to be able to facilitate,
Oh, for sure.
setting yourselves up into the right.
You're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
I mean, the water caches that I dropped off were great, and we were lucky, and we found those. Well, I don't know how new, but we found those cattle tanks that I didn't know were there. That was a great blessing. There's plenty of water, but then we passed some other tanks that I knew were there that were dry. We passed some other tanks that were dry. We passed some more tanks that were dry. There's just, unless you've got an in somehow with the ranchers out there that can tell you this tank has water, yeah, you better be a competent hiker before you go out there and get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, and I think also, even though like I think you and Joe started keeping up with, when or having a spreadsheet where people that hike the GRT, they can update if there was water or not, but it's not like a lot of people hike the GRT.
Oh,
and
no.
so sometimes the updates you may have are months and months old.
Right. There is a guy on the Facebook group who lives out there, and I think he works for one of the ranchers, and he might be a source of information that I'm going to have to get with him and see if I can glean any more info about the water out there. But that's the biggest thing. Make sure that you are a competent hiker. You're confident in your abilities, and you have backup plans for when your plan A, plan B, plan C, when they fail.
I don't know how this is going to come out. And you can think through adversity.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Don't when plan A fails, don't panic.
Yeah.
You just think it through.
Yeah. And also, like, put yourself in situations where you're at a discomfort and that you're used to, that that you can kind of push through it, because it's you can get into some serious trouble pretty quick.
But it's also very rewarding getting out there where nobody else goes. So
absolutely,
just
absolutely
weigh the benefits against the risks, and err on the side of caution. That's what I would say to anybody that's wanting to go out there. If you're a beginner hiker, go with somebody that knows what they're doing. I would even say an intermediate hiker. Be very wary of what you're doing, and if at all possible, go with somebody that knows more than you and is more familiar with the area than you, because out there you can get yourself in a bunch of trouble real quick.
Yeah, and that kind of leads to the next question. Amenities. There ain't nothing out there.
No, there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there.
You have White
at White City, you can get gas and you can get a cold drink. But once you're in the backcountry, the Slaughter Canyon Trailhead has nothing there other than a pit toilet. The Dark Canyon Lookout Yeah, you got some shade and there's a pit toilet, but very seldom are you going to have cell service. Um, all the trailheads in the Lincoln are basically just a place to park your car. There's no amenities. Like you said, there's nothing there. Until you get into Guadalupe, you're on your own.
And I'm trying to think, was there any spot that you had a little bit of cell service the first 2 days before we got into Guad?
I got a smidgen of cell service at the edge of Carlsbad Caverns where that big radio repeater was.
Yeah.
And the turned over bear box. I was
Yep.
able to stand on top of that bear box and get a text out. And then after FU Mountain, walking along that ridge, it was kind of hit or miss. I was able to get a text out.
Yeah.
I know Cameron was able to get a phone call at the Dark Canyon Lookout, but I'm not sure what his carrier is. I wasn't able to get anything.
No. I don't remember getting any cell service, and I think I had Sprint. Now I think they got bought out by T-Mobile. I do know I get cell service on the top out of Permian Reef.
Yep, that's when my
towards
phone started blowing up. Was when we started the
Yeah.
descent of Permian Reef. I started
Yeah.
getting all my notifications.
Yeah. Yeah, so I you definitely need to have a satellite device for sure. And yeah, there ain't nothing out there. So the logistics of this type of a hike, you need to call Todd and get all the the down low of all this stuff, because it's
Well, I'll send you a link to the cow topo of the route and the plan we had, and I guess you could put it in the show notes or something if somebody's interested in doing this route.
yeah. So what was your favorite moment of the trip?
I would say favorite moments. I think I told you while we were doing it, I really love getting to a break spot, kicking back under a tree, and just staring up at the sky. And there's not a sound of modern civilization anywhere around you. The only thing you can hear is the wind blowing. I live for those moments. That night that we got to the edge of North McKittrick and it was already dark and we could see the satellites going overhead. That sunset that night was just stunning how pretty it was. Those are the moments I like, when you stop and you can just sit and take in the vastness of what's around you. And it makes me feel small. You just really, I'm nothing to this canyon. This canyon doesn't care about me. This canyon will be here when I'm gone, when my grandkids are gone. It's just eternal. And I'm so lucky to be able to experience what I'm experiencing right now.
So I think for me, it was every sunset and sunrise that I experienced on the trail, because there's nothing like a South New Mexico or a West Texas sunset or sunrise. And, like having your headlamp on and just seeing whether the sun's coming up off in the distance or it's going down is, golly,
I'm
it's
telling
just
you,
absolutely spectacular.
some of those pictures you got of the sunset on night 2 were just, oh man, they're good enough to put in a frame.
Yeah, I got some bangers for sure. What about any unexpected or funny moments? Anything that caught you off guard?
I was really taken aback that we ran into some trail magic. When I saw the side by side in the distance, I just immediately thought, oh, these guys are going to be jerks. They're going to be mad that we've scared off the deer or whatever, they're hunting. They're going to be, but they were super nice, and just couldn't wait to hear the stories that we had to tell about the trail. We're super
Yeah.
interested in what we were doing. I really enjoyed that. That was really fun being able to share our love of backpacking with some people that were more than happy to share their love of Barbary sheep hunting.
Yeah. I think for me, there's a funny moment that comes to mind is, the time that, or, you ripped the ass out of your pants.
Oh yeah. Yes.
You're
Yes.
right.
I did have a crack in my ass.
You were hiking in front of me, and I was just looking, and I was like, "Is his pants ripped?" And yep, they were
Yep.
ripped. And it's funny because the same thing happened to Sam, and but he ripped out the whole back of his pants. So yeah, I got a giggle about that. Um, I think anything that was unexpected. Definitely Slaughter Canyon caught me off guard, and it really got me focused. But yeah, I think it was almost everything that I expected. And it was a very spectacular trip for sure.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I say, the week before when Ben and I were out there, I told him a couple of times, man, I've never hiked with Jason on anything of this magnitude. I hope he doesn't have any problem with double track. And I think that double track the morning of day 2 going through those canyons I think that was really fun.
Absolutely. So this is I love this question. So, you've been hiking a long time. I've been hiking and backpacking a long time too. So every hike teaches us something. Do you have any lessons or personal takeaways from this trip?
Other than the train more, I think that should be my mantra is train more. Um, Pay closer attention to the weather. But then again, like I say, the week before it was cold, the week after it was cold. How do you prepare for an unseasonable? Just what 4 or 5 days? It was just super hot, and then it went back to being cold.
Yeah.
Um, I know that I've got to train more. The uphills always kick my butt.
I think for me, it just reiterated, and I think, hiking in the Guads and doing everything that I've done there, I get a little cocky. I think I have one up on her with the Guads. And I think for this, it just taught me that she's in control.
Oh, absolutely. She'll let you know with the quickness.
Yep. She allows you to be successful.
Yep.
And, that just reiterated that, I was driving home from, I spent the night in Van Horn after we called it, and just driving home, just giggling that, man, I started going out to Guad 10 years ago and wasn't successful at anything, and then did almost everything in the park and was being successful. And she just put me back in my place that, she's truly in control.
If she is, she will let you know. Sometimes she'll bless you. She'll bless you with a successful trip. But then sometimes she'll be like, no. Your pants are getting a little bit too big for your britches.
Absolutely. So how would you compare this experience to the other hikes you've done out there?
Well, my brain keeps going back to how much trouble I had going up Slaughter Canyon and going up FU Mountain. But other than those two things, it wasn't that bad other than the heat. I would say a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Just a combination of the heat combined with the steep sections of trail that I'm not ready for. I've let myself slack off in my training. But as a trail, I think it was great. It was what I expected. It was hard, which I expected. Compared to the other ones that I've done out there, I would say it was on the high side of the difficulty scale. It was on the high side.
Yeah. So this is a I like this question, but I think it's a dumb question. So I'm going to say the question. I'm going to give you my opinion, and then I want to hear from you. So the question is, would you do this hike again? And if so, what would you do differently? And for me, absolutely, I'm going to be on this hike again with you. And there's not one thing that I would do differently. I think maybe a little more, training or some more miles under my leg. But I mean, the only thing that you can't control was the weather. And I think if the weather was what we would expected, I don't think there would have been any issue that we would have accomplished this.
Oh, I don't have any doubt that we would have accomplished it. If the weather had cooperated, we would have done the whole thing. And yes, I would absolutely do it again. The only thing I would change is, personally, I would do more elevation training, which is something I'm very well aware of. And I would start earlier in the day for every day. Instead of having an hour or so of night hiking, I would have an hour or so in the morning of hiking in the dark. But other than that, I think we had it nailed. Other than the weather.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. So I think I know the answer to this question. If someone's wanting to do this hike, what do you think the best time of year to do it is? I think we nailed it in the winter.
Oh yeah, the winter's the only time you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, can you just for a moment?
No, no, I don't want to
imagine trying to hike that section through the Lincoln in the summertime. There's just no way. There's just no way.
Yeah, I mean, you would. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so someone comes to you and asks you that and tell you that they want to do this hike. What is the one piece of gear that you would say you absolutely have to have?
Sun protection. Sun protection is a big one. Whether it's hot weather or whether it's cold weather. That West Texas, southern New Mexico sun will suck the energy right out of you. That I would say that's the biggest thing. And water. Either have water caches or have some sort of knowledge that this cattle tank is full, this cattle tank is not full. That's what I would say.
The one thing that Guad has taught me, I don't care when you're out there, sun hoodie, sun hoodie, sun hoodie, sun hoodie, sun hoodie. And I absolutely agree with you. Sun protection. You better have a water plan. So whether it's capacity where you're throwing a bunch of Trekker Joe water bottle sleeve holders to facilitate you to carry the water that you need to carry. And then also outside of just kind of the common sense stuff, you better have a satellite GPS.
No, I was going to say, if you have some sort of inReach, Zoleo, something like that, that could be a big factor if things take a turn for the worst.
Yeah. And kind of like the flip side, what is a recommendation that you would give to a hiker who wanted to do this of avoiding?
Avoid wearing shorts. Your legs are going to get chewed up going through Carlsbad. The sun is going to burn your calves no matter where you are. Things to avoid.
I would say complacency. Like,
oh well, yeah.
Yeah, like you get the map from Todd, you see, oh yeah, man, he's telling you where to cache. He's telling you how to get to the cache. He's telling you the miles per day. He's got this, that. I mean, it's all laid out for you. All you got to do is walk. No, you better be in shape. You better have the stuff you're packing. It better be, the gear better be tested. You better be on your game. This is no joke.
Yeah, you're right. Just because, let's say I give you the cow topo, and the listeners are able to download it, and they know the route, they know everything they need to know about the trail. Do you know everything about yourself? Do you know that you're going to be able to do? You've got to do at least 13 miles that first day to get to Agua Dulce, and it's not an easy 13 miles. Do you have somebody that can go out a week before and cache water? Yeah, just having the information isn't enough.
No.
Be confident in your ability, and don't overestimate your ability. Be humble.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we start to kind of wrap this up, the last couple of questions, any lessons learned, anything you learned about yourself on this hiking trip?
I learned to push through. That's something I learn on every trip, because there's always a point in the trip where it hurts, where you're ready to get back. Man, I could go back and I could be sitting in the car with the air conditioning on. But once you push through that, you get the reward of the rest of the trail, but you also get the reward of, I have the inner fortitude to push through the hard times. And for me, that's a big motivation, is proving to myself that I can set a goal and do it. And no, we didn't do the whole trail, but I did push through the hard parts and accomplished something that is worthy of bragging about. I did 60 miles. I did a 21-mile day in the Guads. So finding that inner strength is always rewarding for me.
Yeah, I think for me, there's always you learn something about yourself. Like you said, there were some situations where we had to push through. There were situations where it was uncomfortable. There were situations where, looking at managing your water and, or night hiking, where you could, not you, but like for me, I could have panicked, or I could have, had some irrational thoughts, but just to stop, think about what's going on, what's actually happening, and just kind of having I don't know if it's the right word, but like a peaceful mind in the situations that we found ourselves in. And even the frustrations where it's only 4 more miles to camp and you're running out of water, and the miles aren't clicking off as fast as you think they should, and the frustration, it's I love learning about myself.
Me too. It's at mile 4, that steepest part. We're literally just at the 4th mile of this trip, and we're going up Slaughter Canyon, and I'm sitting there I'm ready to quit.
Yes.
I'm not going to quit at mile 4. I might sit down and take a little bit longer break than usual, but no, you're not going to quit at mile 4.
Yep. And all we had to do was text Sam and say, "Hey, come back and get us."
Exactly.
This
Exactly.
sucks.
It's so easy. And that's what makes it a challenge, is no, I'm not going to take the easy way out. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we will definitely be back.
Oh,
We're gonna slay this sucker.
well, I know that Joe wants to go with us, so
Yep,
we'll have to get him for the next one.
absolutely. So yeah, again, this was such a great trip. I'm definitely glad that I got to experience it with you. It definitely wouldn't have been possible without you. Your knowledge of the area, the planning of the trip. I mean, you had it all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted. I just walked, so I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you going with me. I mean, most of my friends aren't dumb enough to sign up for for one of my trips.
You should have heard Lori. She's like, "Are you sure it's going to be safe? This does, it's 100 miles. This doesn't look 20,000 feet of elevation gain, or almost. Well, with the pre-day, it would have been a little over 20. Yeah, it was 22 ish. Um, yeah. So again, thanks so much for even coming on the podcast and for giving your thoughts about the hike. And I hope for all the listeners, if you're thinking about hiking this trail, hopefully this episode has, I don't know about prepared you, because there's a lot of stuff that you have to do that's outside of this episode, but I hope that it has let you know that this is no joke of a hike. This was no joke of a trip, and that you better talk to Todd, get all the intel. You better look at the map, because outside of just the hard hiking itself, I mean, the logistics, the caching of the water, permits, there's so much to this trip that to me is outside of kind of like a normal backpacking trip, that it's definitely an experience, and it definitely is a backpacking trip that you take that will definitely give you some notches in your experience belt for sure.
It will. If anybody is interested in it, again, I'm Todd versus Todd on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I never do TikTok, but Todd versus Todd, how to get a hold of me. I'm happy to share any of the information I have. This is one that it's one for the books. It's one that if you do it, you can brag about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Todd, for jumping on the podcast. And as always, you are always welcome. We still need to do the panel. And to the listeners, don't forget to check me out, the Trailblazing Texas podcast. Follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. And I hope that, again, this was our very first trip report. And I hope you, as listeners, find value in this. And definitely it would be interesting to get your feedback, because I definitely want to incorporate, episodes like this more and more to the podcast. So thanks again for checking us out. And Todd, thanks again for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me again. It was great.
All right. Bye. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today, and stay tuned for our next episode, where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.